Welcome to Insights for Manufacturing, the podcast that supports the UK manufacturing sector. Hosted by Jeff Beacham, the manufacturer's recruiter.
Welcome to Insights for Manufacturing. Today we're discussing robotics in manufacturing, and I'm delighted to welcome my guest, Stephanie West, who's the Deputy Director of Operations at NERIC, North of England Robotics Innovation Centre. Welcome to the show, Stephanie.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're very welcome. And this episode is a really good follow-on to a number of other podcasts I've done throughout the year, focusing on automation and robotics. So, Steph, could you start by, just telling the audience a little bit about NERIC and how it supports businesses, particularly SMEs?
Absolutely. So I'm here in the North of England Robotics Innovation Centre. We are part of the University of Salford. As an innovation centre, we work across all sectors. Okay, I appreciate this is a manufacturing specific podcast, but we work in warehouse and logistics, virtual production, creative sector, fashion, food and drink, all of which can kind of be in the supply chain of the manufacturing. But robotics obviously lends itself really, really well to manufacturing. So that is a main sector for us in the types of businesses we work with.
Okay.
We've got 3 labs here on site. All of which have been commissioned with robotics kind of in the affordability and technology readiness level of the typical, if there is one, the typical SME we might work with. And we kind of aim to address the most commonplace applications that SMEs can take advantage of. Now, SMEs can work, or all businesses can work with us in a number of ways. We have a funded consultancy programme where businesses can use state aid funding to access our academic and professional expertise in robotics. Okay. We can work with businesses through commercial consultancy, so really simple kind of project financial transaction, or we can be the academic partner in a much bigger funding bid. So if businesses are looking at kind of Innovate UK competitions, we can happily be the academic partner on that kind of bid. And what we do, we look to address SME problems by exploring whether automation could be a solution for them. If we find that automation could be a good solution for that business, we want to de-risk it before any business parts with any cash. So if we find a solution for them, we would hopefully want to test it and ensure that the business is going to get the correct solution to address their problem and the right return on investment before they go ahead and make a purchase.
Brilliant. I love the de-risking scenario, because there's going to be a lot of doubts, worries about payback and the length of the timescales for return on investment and all those things. So it's great to know that you're leading with that whole sort of confident side of things for your customers, that they're going to get the right solution and it's going to be within the right sort of timescales and financial parameters. Okay, so we've naturally we've seen robotics becoming more and more integrated into manufacturing processes over a number of years. How do you see automation and robotics playing a role in helping businesses upskill workers, by maybe allowing them to move away from dangerous or repetitive tasks onto more added value ones, Steph? Okay.
So the first thing I want to say, that upskilling workers and increasing jobs is one of the main aims of NERIC. Okay, it's one of our targets. Now, it must be 2-3 times a week that I will hit the objection. Someone will say to me, a robot's not just going to take all of our jobs. Okay, The answer is no, and the evidence is there to prove that the answer is no. But what we do want to do is remove human beings from jobs that they shouldn't be doing. Now, the system we use to kind of define whether or not a process or task could be a good candidate for automation is if it would fall into one of the 5 Ds. Now, they are: if a process or task is dirty, human beings shouldn't be doing it. DS, it's expensive, defects are happening. Dangerous, okay, so it's working at height or something like that. If it's dull, so it's non-scaled, it's non-value adding, we want to get human beings away from that, or it's difficult. So if there's a particular knack to a process, or there's one person in a business that can carry out that task, or if you're doing something and you think, oh, I wish I had 3 hands to be able to do this, if it falls into any of those 5 Ds, chances are that as long as the return on investment is there, that it could be a good candidate for automation. And what this allows businesses to move resource. So the simple step is to move that resource into robotic programming or maintenance, because if you commission a robot, someone needs to run it and program it and maintain it and get the most out of that investment. But it also allows resource to go into kind of higher skilled work or softer skilled work. So allowing human beings to be more creative and strategic, parts that robots can't do.
Brilliant. And, this is something that's on everybody's mind in manufacturing, really, is that, there's a skills gap. We've got people retiring every year. Some people are, unfortunately leaving industry for numerous reasons. And, productivity is still an issue. We're still miles behind a lot of the other advanced industrial nations in terms of robot deployment. And, it is getting better, but we all need to keep talking about this. And it just seems a no-brainer to me, with the skills gap. If we've got technology and it's accessible, and we've got people, giving the right sort of advice to make sure that the applications are, fit for purpose and going to give the financial reward, then, I just think UK manufacturing needs to get behind this big style, because if they're not moving forward, they're going to be going backwards because their competitors will be doing it, right?
I think you're absolutely right. And the big point is that accessibility. And robots are much more accessible than many SMEs would perhaps anticipate. So if I say robotics, that any person, any business owner, anyone in manufacturing, usually the first thing that springs to mind is a large 6-axis industrial robot arm, usually on an automotive production line. Okay, that's the thing that people envisage. And it is that, okay, robotics is that, but it's also automating order processing, or it's automating quality control, or it's automating moving something from A to B rather than having a human being doing it for 12 hours every day, all day. It's much, much smaller and much more accessible than maybe businesses would consider.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think are the most pressing challenges then that manufacturers are facing when it comes to, adopting robotic solutions? I mean, what are the sort of main considerations you think businesses need to take on board for integrating robots?
So for an ideal process with working with us, with working with NERIC, for our customer journey, we would ask businesses to focus on the problem. Okay, consider the problem rather than the solution. Businesses may have a solution in mind that they think could address the issues and help them, and that's fine. But we would always try and get people to take one step back. What's the problem? Okay, is it that defects are happening? Is it that production's too slow? Is it a well-being problem, such as you want to kind of mitigate manual handling risks? Think of the problem and come to us with that. Okay, so if you speak to someone like us here at NERIC, who are independent, okay, because we're a university, we are not affiliated to any one manufacturer or supplier or end effector or vision system. We're completely impartial. Okay. And what that does is it enables us to give kind of a data-driven or factual evidence-based solution to the business to help to solve their problem. And we would do exactly like I've kind of just spoken about before. We would do an analysis on the process using the 5 Ds and advise whether a particular task is a good candidate for automation, or should the business be focusing somewhere else. Okay, we can do kind of a line walk through from goods in to goods out and say, okay, we can identify this could be an opportunity for automation, or rather than trying to automate that process, have you thought about just moving that operator from there to there? It may be that we can address the problem in a different way before automation even has to happen. And then when we get to the point where we say, okay, we've identified the process, we think this could be a good solution for you with at the right price, right timescales, right return on investment. But what businesses should also consider is how does that affect their production line or their dispatch or their assembly, wherever they're going to commission, okay? How is that going to affect their upstream and downstream processes? Purchasing a robot is often not an off-the-shelf product. Businesses can be overwhelmed kind of with any big purchase. I mean, we've seen it in kind of software systems a lot as well. The robot needs to work with the software, which needs to be programmed, which needs to be worked with the right end effector, which then needs to work with the right vision system. And it can be overwhelming. So it's good to kind of seek professional advice on what you're going to purchase before you do. And then, of course, with any investment, cost is an issue as well. And as I said, robotics are much more accessible than people might consider, but it's still a big investment, and that investment needs to pay. That investment needs to have a return. So I would always say to people as well, whether you're working with us at NERIC or you're in kind of another local authority area, try and find the person who can signpost you to funding before you make any investment in your business. Try not to pay for it full price if you don't have to. If there's a pot of money there that can be accessed, go for it and try and get some funding to help towards the cost.
Yeah, and I think one of the key things just to highlight after what you've said is that, you know, the impartiality is so important. And I think this is where some businesses, you know, have usually got a little bit of fear or trepidation about, well, who can they actually trust that knows what they're talking about, who's not going to rip them off, who's not maybe aligned to a specific company or brand. They just want that sort of third party, as you say, impartiality, to know that they're getting the right advice. There's no sort of hidden agendas, and it's about solving their issue. That's first and foremost where this thing needs to come from with any sort of consultancy. It's the same for my recruitment business. What's the issue? Let's talk about the challenges, how you've got to where you are, what you need to do. Let's look at how we might solve that problem first before coming to any sort of decision or, you know, talking about costs and things like that. You know, it's a bespoke solution every time, isn't it?
Absolutely, every time. And it may even be that we advise a business not to invest. It could be that the technology that they need is still developing, or it's in its infancy, which makes it expensive. Yeah. But we may know that as technology is advancing at the rate it is, that the particular technology that business needs is likely to be much, much cheaper in 5 years' time. So it may even be that we advise to hold off, like, you need this, but maybe not right now.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Have you got any sort of examples of maybe some key projects that you're able to talk about? I mean, you know, we don't want to sort of be falling foul of any confidentiality issues, but I mean, have you got any examples of some of the projects that NERIC has been involved in?
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, because we're obviously under NDA with a lot of this.
Yeah.
But I can give you a great example. Okay, we've got a wonderful case study with a business that we worked with in Greater Manchester. So really traditional manufacturer, family-run businesses. I'm sure a lot of listeners will be able to relate kind of the dynamics and the struggles kind of the emotional involvement that goes with that as well. So this manufacturer we worked with were a manufacturer of heat pump cylinders. Okay. Lots of kind of dirty work, lots of welding, lots of heavy lifting of these huge cylinders around a factory. Kind of around a one-level site, but it was a busy site moving these huge cylinders around. Now, we worked with them starting way back, like right at the beginning of consideration. So, as is really common, businesses will come to us, or they will get referred to us, or I will knock on the door and say, do you want to work with us? And they'll say, okay, we need a robot. And we'll say, let's just go a few steps back. Let's go a few steps and analyze what is actually happening in your business. So we conducted a pestle analysis with them, and you'll probably remember the big news kind of last year around heat pump funding and the government's targets for so many, kind of the eradication of gas boilers and the government's target zero. We did that analysis with them and identified that to meet potential demand, very realistic potential demand, they were going to have to increase their production 10 times just to keep up.
Yeah. Okay?
it's a wonderful problem to have, that they've got a full order book that they can't kind of keep up with, but it's also in the kind of times that we're in and the kind of volatility of being in business, you need to be able to meet the demand of your customers, and they were really wanting to kind of maintain the amazing reputation and the service that they'd built up over a number of years by being able to meet their customers' demand.
Yeah.
Now, to increase that production, if money was no object or in an ideal world, they'd be on a bigger site with more staff, with 24-hour lights out production. Okay.
Yeah.
In the real world, they're limited on space. Okay, as with all SME manufacturers at the moment, any manufacturer that needs welders, anyone I speak to, they are struggling to recruit and retain welders. Businesses are crying out for that skill. So once we conducted that analysis with them, we worked with them to create kind of the end goal. Okay, what's the roadmap to total automation? Total automation being, as I mentioned, 24-hour lights out production. Okay, consistent production. That's the end goal.
Yep.
Then we worked with them to prioritize which tasks could be automated first, which would give the quickest return, which are the easiest to implement, and therefore where should they prioritize? And we almost made it like a modular journey. So look at this process, automate that before then you go back a step and you automate your cutter, before then you go ahead a step and you automate your pick and place. And we looked at solutions that the process that we identified was, of course, welding. So we looked at automating some welding in their production line. And what that allowed them to do was to keep their skilled welders doing skilled welding.
Okay.
Automate the more simpler welding tasks that they needed to carry out.
Yeah.
Now, this was relatively new, this project. So this was only around a year ago we started working with them, but they've already begun to trial to automate some of those welding. Some of those welding tasks, and we're looking to partner with them as their business grows and those needs change to hopefully get to that kind of end goal of being 100% automated.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, welding, crikey. I think that's been a problem over the last couple of decades, really.
Yeah.
But exacerbated by the current times we're in. So, great example. Thanks very much for sharing that.
I think the current times we're in, and especially for SMEs, where they often have a brilliant culture and committed employees and a real kind of team culture. But people are at work to pay their bills, and if there's a bigger employer nearby that can offer more money, you can't really blame people for jumping. So that's what SMEs are up against, trying to retain their skilled staff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an ongoing issue.
Yeah.
Okay, so what role do you think NERIC plays in the sort of broader push for technology adoption in manufacturing? I mean, barriers, as we've spoken about, cost, lack of technical expertise. How are NERIC sort of helping with that?
So this is exactly why NERIC exists. So if we look at, if you imagine a league table of robotic adoption, the UK last year has only just entered the top 15 countries for industrial robot adoption. So the year before, UK wasn't even featured.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Okay, we're kind of adopting more of this technology and taking advantage of the benefits of it, but we are still so far behind our European counterparts on that league table, and even further behind the US and kind of Far East Asia. Now, with growing labour costs, growing material costs, duty and tax considerations for exporting products or for importing your raw materials, how are UK manufacturers supposed to compete on the global stage without automation?
Yeah.
And we exist to de-risk that investment. Okay, we want our businesses to be as informed as possible that their solution is going to work and help them drive towards their business goals, whether that's they can produce more, cheaper, faster, or reduce defects or increase efficiencies. Whatever their goal is, we want to make sure that robotic solution helps them to achieve that, and then kind of assist them with purchasing if we can.
Yeah, it's it's quite a complex collection of challenges, isn't it? And I suppose automation and robotics, it's a great solution, or a sort of collection of parts or modular parts of a system, because it's never usually just a robot, is it? There's other parts that sort of fit into making a whole sort of automated system. So great. I know you've got some really strong ties to education, and obviously technology. In terms of workforce development, then, how do you see that evolving in the context of manufacturing? I mean, are there any particular initiatives in place that can help workers gain the skills that they need when it comes to moving into automation and robotics type roles?
Yeah, so there's initiatives for kind of all workplace or kind of CPD development, not just in NERIC, but within the wider university as well. Okay. And it's really around what the business is looking to do, changing kind of one skill set to another, or kind of cross-skilling their workforce, or any kind of change happening within that business. The university can assist with that. It may be that they're wanting to upskill people in delivering training themselves. It may be that they're looking to explore the benefits of AI in their business. Yeah. It may be that they're looking to incentivize people returning to work. Even we've seen a big push on that as well. So there's lots of initiatives around. I could probably go on for a long time about different ones in place. I think that the key element is to come and talk to us or your kind of local higher education provider or technical education provider, and just see what's out there, because there's so much support for businesses available, and a lot of it is state aid funded, so it's at no cost to the business. It's just about coming to talk to us and telling us what you need.
Okay, well, we'll go on to the sort of contact details for NERIC in a short while. Before we do that, cybersecurity, I mean, it's such a big topic. Something else that I've covered in previous episodes of Insights for Manufacturing. It's an issue, particularly with Industry 4, IoT devices. It's a huge risk, for any business. In particular manufacturing businesses, because it's not just, a lot of people just think of their computers and laptops and phones when it comes to cybersecurity and data, personal data and things like that. But when you've got a whole factory talking and communicating, that cybersecurity has got to be robust and covering the whole, the whole plant operation, isn't it? So when it comes to cybersecurity, then how do you ensure, or how does the industry ensure that new technologies are secure and business critical data is protected? Because robots, everything's connected. It's all done digitally. How much of a problem is that? And what sort of advice can you give on cybersecurity?
Yeah, this is a great point. So we're all aware of cybersecurity. It's not just in our workplace, on our laptops, it's in our phones, it's on our banking, it's in our homes. So yeah. This is common language for most people. Don't fear, the cybersecurity risks of kind of putting robotics or any other technology into the business. The benefits of it are far outweigh, as long as you have adequate security. Yeah. So if you have any kind of robots, even vehicles, CNC machines, it could be anything with any kind of digital communication between one system to another, the business is moving into the Internet of Things. And that is data, and that is a business risk, and that should be recorded on your risk register as well. Yeah. What files are stored where, and what would it mean if we lost them, or would it mean if we were, how business critical is it if something was to go wrong or we were hacked or something? And that should be considered in the exact same way as any kind of database storage or GDPR or finances. And the businesses should speak to a professional on that to ensure that they have adequate security, as with any other data in business.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for sharing that. So looking forward then, we're nearly at the end of 2024. By the time this podcast comes out, we will be almost on top of Christmas. But in terms of 2025, Steph, what will be the key areas of focus for NERIC, as you continue to assist the manufacturing sector?
So NERIC was set up with SMEs in mind, and SMEs continue to be our focus. Okay, so we know that 99.9% of businesses in the UK are SMEs, but that means there's a lot of people for us to speak to, and that's a huge market. We've got plenty to work with, but it's going to be 2025 and beyond that we do that.
Yeah.
Now, when we consider the kind of facilities that we've got here for businesses to take advantage of it and explore and use, the biggest unit that we've got here, the biggest piece of kit, costs 300,000. Now that is a large investment for an SME, but it's not in the millions. And what we're really trying to do is to get the message across that it is more accessible than you think, and the benefits can be much, much larger than you think, and it can be easier to implement than you think. You just need to talk to us. So we're going to continue working with SMEs in manufacturing and advanced manufacturing to achieve their goals through the application of robotic technology.
Yep.
And what we want to do, we want to help businesses enhance productivity, increase their operational efficiency, provide jobs, different jobs, different skills, more jobs. But ultimately, we want to boost the local economy. That's kind of the long-term goal, is to help boost that.
Brilliant. And it's great to hear that SMEs are front and centre of where your focus is, really, because they really do need help. So thanks again for that. Just a quick one in terms of 2025. Any sort of special events, or I don't know, any webinars, seminars, exhibitions, open days, and anything in the calendar that you could sort of signpost for the audience?
Yeah, so we run workshops averages around once a month.
Okay.
Now the workshops could be an introduction to Industry 4.0 or an introduction to robotics and automation, or it could be something much, much more niche around kind of using lasers or light for microscopic measurement. So they vary in content, and they vary in kind of technical accessibility. So keep an eye on our LinkedIn. They're always advertised on there. And also don't wait for an event or a workshop. If you think that you could maybe benefit from working with us, then we're always happy to speak to people. Please just get in touch and we'll have a chat.
Great. So reach out. If you've got an idea or a challenge, reach out. Sounds like a Four Tops tune there, showing my age. So just quickly then, what's the best route to get in contact with you then? Website, phone? What do you want to share some?
Yeah, so best is our email address. So you can contact neric@salford.ac.uk, and whatever your query is, it will get to the right person. And if you look at the North of England Robotics Innovation Centre on LinkedIn, you'll find us there, and that's where you can keep up with everything that's happening here, all of the different projects we're doing, or funding that we've been successful in, or just kind of seeing what's going on, the different testing that we're doing here with the robots and the people in the office too.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. It's been a fascinating conversation about robotics and the services that you're providing at NERIC. I'd like to wish you all the very best for the new year as a team. And thank you personally for joining me on Insights for Manufacturing. So I hope you have a very, very nice Christmas, and I'm sure we'll speak to you again at some point in the new year, Steph.
Wonderful. You too. Have a amazing Christmas, and all the best for the new year.
Thank you. So that's the end of another episode of Insights for Manufacturing, and it really brings 2024 to a close. So we'll look out to more episodes in the new year. Until then, we'll see you soon. Thanks very much, and bye-bye.